let me tell you a story. It's a story that's absolutely steeped in superstition, wrapped up in tragedy, and believe me, it holds on to its most shocking secret until the very, very end. This is the tale of a woman who everyone called a witch, and the dark, mysterious forces that were always swirling around her.
But the whole thing kicks off with a really strange, unsettling question. How can something as innocent as a little kid's toy car actually cause a gruesome, fatal accident? Now, that's not a riddle. It's the bizarre event that gets this whole story rolling. So, our scene is set at this humble little roadside tea stall. And it's here that we meet Mandira, the quiet woman who runs the place, and a guy named Abiraj who is about to make her the target of some serious cruelty. Abiraj, he's just full of himself. He starts taunting Mandira, harassing her with these crude remarks. His friends, though, they're terrified. They're trying to warn him, telling him, hey, man, leave her alone. They say she's a witch. But he just laughs it off. Okay, and this is where things get really strange. As Abiraj speeds away in his car, Mandira sees a little kid crying, so she gives him a small toy car to calm him down. But as the child starts playing, pushing it forward, back, left, right, miles down the road, Abiraj's real car starts to mimic every single movement. He has no control. And when the kid shoves the toy out into the road where it gets crushed by a bike, Abiraj's car veers violently and collides head-on with a truck, crushing him inside. The news of this freak accident just spreads like wildfire. And for the villagers, the explanation is simple, and it's terrifying. It wasn't an accident. No way. Mandira, the witch, she used her dark magic to kill Abiraj. And to them, this wasn't the first time she'd taken a life. To really understand why everyone is so quick to point the finger, we have to look back at Mandira's past. Her whole life has just been one relentless tragedy after another, marking her as cursed from the moment she was born. Her life was just shadowed by tragedy from day one. Her mother died giving birth to her. Her father, completely broken, drank himself into an early grave. So she gets sent to live with her uncle, but not as a niece. No, she was treated like a maid. And when she was old enough, her aunt sold her into an abusive marriage for a measly 10,000 rupees. And the cruelty was a daily thing. I mean, picture this. While her cousins ate from decorated plates, she got the leftovers. While they wore brand new clothes for festivals, she was given their torn hand-me-downs. They got love and respect. She got the life of an unpaid servant in her own family's home. But in all this darkness, there was one little flicker of kindness. Her stepbrother-in-law, Gajraj. He was an outcast too, a stepson who knew exactly what it felt like to be unwanted. He was the only person who actually saw her suffering and offered her any kind of comfort. But there's one specific incident that really cements Mandira's dark reputation. The event that turns all those whispers of witchcraft into a full-blown conviction is the mysterious and violent death of her abusive husband. So one day, after a really brutal beating, Gajraj finds Mandira just moaning in pain, and in her anguish, just completely desperate, she confesses this dark wish. She tells him, I feel like the only way out is to use black magic to kill him. Gajraj, he just thinks she's venting, He kind of laughs it off. He playfully grabs a doll from the room and jokes, here, take this voodoo doll and work your magic. To him, it's just a game. He's thinking of the old superstition, sticking pins in a doll to curse someone. He doesn't believe for a second that any of it is real. But then, the unthinkable happens. Later that day, her husband stumbles home and just collapses outside. Inside, Mandira, locked in a room, thrusts a needle right into the doll's chest. At that exact same moment, her husband starts bleeding from his chest. Every single pin she pushes into the doll creates a real wound on his body. As the villagers all gather around, Mandira clutches the doll tightly, and her husband convulses one last time and dies. Right as her husband dies, a villager sees the voodoo doll fall from Mandira's hands. And for the town, that's it. It's undeniable proof. She's a witch, and she just murdered her husband. Only Gajraj stands by her, insisting she's innocent, but nobody listens. So, that brings us back to the present. Furious over Abiraj's death, the villagers decide they've had enough. They cook up a plan to execute Mandira during the Durgashtami festival to finally rid their town of her evil forever. Abiraj's friends drag her deep into the forest and tie her to a tree. And Agar, a local mystic, is brought in to do the job. He starts chanting these mantras, getting ready to strike her down, as she just screams for help that isn't coming. The Agori raises his lip for the final blow. It really looks like this is the end for Mandira. But this is where the entire story flips on its head. Just ask yourself, was she ever the one with the power? Just as that whip is about to strike her, it freezes, completely still, in midair. The Agori looks back, and his blood just runs cold. There stands Gajraj. But he's transformed. His body is bare, his forehead is marked with a black tika, and around his neck is a garland woven entirely out of voodoo dolls. The Agori accuses Gajraj of interfering, but Gajraj just tells them, "Let her go or you will all die." One of Abhiraj's friends doesn't listen and lunges at him with a knife. But before he can even land a blow, there's a flash of light, and the attacker's head is violently twisted completely backward. He drops dead. The real sorcerer has just been revealed. And in that one horrifying moment, it all clicks for Mandira. Gajraj didn't just happen to show up. He was the one who killed her husband. His power caused Abhiraj's crash. All of it. It was his dark magic, and he used it to protect her from the people who hurt her. What happens next is just pure chaos. Gajraj unleashes his power, using those voodoo dolls to break the villagers' bones, to tear them apart. But as he rushes to free Mandira, he's stabbed in the back, and the Agori manages to trap him with his whip. Mortally wounded, Gajraj gestures desperately to Mandira, pointing at the garland of dolls. She understands. She grabs a nearby torch and sets the dolls ablaze. Instantly, all of their enemies are engulfed in flames, their screams echoing through the forest before finally fading into silence. Mandira rushes to Gajraj and holds him as he takes his final breaths. With his dying words, he gives her one last reassurance. He promises her, "From now on, no one will ever bother you or call you a witch again." And then, he's gone. And so Mandira is left truly, completely alone once more. She's lost the only person who ever cared for her, her protector. But Gajraj's final act, it was a gift. The story of his terrifying power becomes a legend in that village. And while Mandira now lives in solitude, she also lives in peace. No one dares to harm her, not out of respect, but out of pure fear. She is safe, forever shielded by the terrifying memory of a good man's dark magic.